On arriving at the extremity of the castle, D'Artagnan found himself overlooking a beautiful valley, in which, at the foot of a charming little lake, stood several scattered houses, which, humble in their aspect, and covered, some with tiles, others with thatch, seemed to acknowledge as their sovereign lord a pretty chateau, built about the beginning of the reign of Henry IV, and surmounted by four stately, gilded weathercocks. D'Artagnan no longer doubted that this was Porthos's pleasant dwelling place. The road led straight up to the chateau which, compared to its ancestor on the hill, was exactly what a fop of the coterie of the Duc d'Enghien would have been beside a knight in steel armour in the time of Charles VII. D'Artagnan spurred his horse on and pursued his road, followed by Planchet at the same pace. In 10 minutes D'Artagnan reached the end of an alley regularly planted with fine poplars and terminating in an iron gate, the points and crossed bars of which were gilt. In the midst of this avenue was a nobleman, dressed in green and with as much gilding about him as the iron gate, riding on a tall horse. On his right hand and his left were two footmen, with the seams of their dresses laced. A considerable number of clowns were assembled and rendered homage to their lord. "Ah," said D'Artagnan to himself, "can this be the Seigneur du Vallon de Brachou de Pierrefonds? Well a day how he has shrunk since he gave up the name of Porthos. This cannot be Monsieur Porthos," observed Planchet, replying, as it were, to his master's thoughts. "Monsieur Porthos was 6 feet high, this man is scarcely 5. Nevertheless," said D'Artagnan, "the people are bowing very low to this person." As he spoke, he rode toward the tall horse to the man of importance and his valets. As he approached, he seemed to recognize the features of this individual. "Jesu!" cried Planchet. "Can it be?" At this exclamation the man on horseback turned slowly and with a lofty air, and the two travellers could see, displayed in all their brilliancy, the large eyes, the vermilion visage, and the eloquent smile of Mousqueton. It was indeed Mousqueton, as fat as a pig, rolling about with rude health, puffed out with good living, who, recognizing D'Artagnan and acting very differently from the hypocrite Bazin, slipped off his horse and approached the officer with his hat off, so that the homage of the assembled crowd was turned toward this new sun, which eclipsed the former luminary. "Monsieur d'Artagnan, Monsieur d'Artagnan!" cried Mousqueton, his fat cheeks swelling out, and his whole frame perspiring with joy. "Monsieur d'Artagnan! Oh, what joy for my lord and master, du Vallon de Brachou de Pierrefonds! Thou good Mousqueton, where is thy master? You stand upon his property. But how handsome thou art, how fat thou hast prospered and grown stout!" And D'Artagnan could not restrain his astonishment at the change good fortune had produced on the once famished one. "Hey, yes, thank God, I am pretty well," said Mousqueton. "But hast thou nothing to say to thy friend Planchet?" "How, my friend Planchet? Planchet, art thou there?" cried Mousqueton, with open arms and eyes full of tears. "My very self," replied Planchet, "but I wanted first to see if thou wert grown proud. Proud toward an old friend? Never, Planchet, thou wouldst not have thought so hadst thou known Mousqueton well. So far so well," answered Planchet, alighting, and extending his arms to Mousqueton. The two servants embraced with an emotion which touched those who were present and made them suppose that Planchet was a great lord in disguise, so highly did they estimate the position of Mousqueton. "And now, sir," resumed Mousqueton, when he had rid himself of Planchet, who had in vain tried to clasp his hands behind his friend's fat back, "now, sir, allow me to leave you, for I could not permit my master to hear of your arrival from any but myself. He would never forgive me for not having preceded you. This dear friend," said D'Artagnan, carefully avoiding to utter either the former name borne by Porthos or his new one, "then he has not forgotten me." "Forgotten ye," cried Mousqueton, "there's not a day, sir, that we don't expect to hear that you were made marshal either instead of Monsieur de Gatien or of Monsieur de Bassompierre." On Zortagnan's lips there played one of those rare and melancholy smiles which seemed to emanate from the depth of his soul the last trace of youth and happiness that had survived life's disillusions. "And you fellows," resumed Mousqueton, "stay near Monsieur le Comte d'Artagnan, and pay him every attention in your power whilst I go to prepare my lord for his visit." And mounting his horse Mousqueton rode off down the avenue on the grass at a hand gallop. "Ah, there's something promising," said D'Artagnan. "No mysteries, no cloak to hide one's self in, no cunning policy here. People laugh outright. They weep for joy here. I see nothing but faces a yard broad and short. It seems to me that nature herself wears a holiday garb, and that the trees, instead of leaves and flowers, are covered with red and green ribbons as on gala days,